Dodge as we welcome in 1320 host and contributor Olivia Christian, who's very what's the word? You're kind of dressed up today.
Oh, am I? Oh, yeah, I usually have a sweatshirt on. That's true. I'm a little spruced up.
Look nice today, Maybach O.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, are you safe though? As we hear the sirens like right outside your door. Are you hanging out with Jason Jones? Are you wherever Jason Jones was last week?
I was going to say, you're likely to hear sirens, helicopters. There was a giant fire on the street next to me.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
This morning, a ton of smoke. And so anything can happen. We'll see. We're live on the radio.
No, we're
live in South Central. Are you keeping up with all of the different trade rooms? Like we've coined this the longest trade deadline in the history of the NBA. Have you been keeping up with that we mentioned the rumor as you were joining us here? The Pelicans have been really aggressive on the trade market for a guard. CJ McCollum, De'Aaron Fox, and Eric Gordon being guys that New Orleans is allegedly calling about.
Yeah, I've been, dabbling in it. I have to say, I think of myself as kind of a casual fan when it comes to draft stuff. There's so many moving parts, and I just want to know when it's going to land. Just tell me what we're getting, what we're giving up. I have my ideas of what the Kings could use. But all of the other teams that are, wheeling and dealing, it's too chaotic especially when I think there are, bigger storylines that we could be following in the world. But it has felt like the longest. We've been talking about trade season forever. It's kind of like when those celebrities get pregnant and you're like, have you had the baby yet? It feels like we've been talking about this for 2 years. Push it out already. That's what it feels like with the trade talks now. Like whatever we're doing, especially in Sacramento, let's get it done and start the rebuild as soon as possible.
Please. I'm absolutely ready for it. I've been calling it for 8 weeks. Just move on from some of these guys. Now, the one I haven't been calling for 8 weeks is De'Aaron Fox. And you hear, on the Windhorse comment that New Orleans is possibly aggressive and going after him. You got this situation. He says he's hurt. I'm going to say he's hurt. But, people who are skeptical of the whole thing say, they're ready to move on from him, things of that nature. Do you think that we're at that point with the Sacramento Kings where they feel the best course of action is to move on from De'Aaron Fox?
Honestly, I feel like this is wild because we won last night. Yay. And now it's like, well, we won with these guys. Let's keep these guys. We don't really need him anymore. Let's forget about it. And it's because we're so thirsty for signs of life. And last night we saw wonderful signs of life. And so we're kind of, I think as fans, some of us are jumping on this bandwagon of, okay, let's keep working on the chemistry of these guys that we have in the court right now. Tyrese and Davion obviously have been playing well. They come with a certain youthful energy that I think we've been dying for, running and getting into the offense earlier, playing concentrated and consistent defense. Tyrese has been making plays for other people, putting them in a position to be successful. And they seem excited. They're jumping off the bench, they're high-fiving each other, enjoying the game. And that all happened last night. That's it. All the other games, the 7 losses previous to that, I feel like we all, again, as fans, we're kind of like, we don't know what we want, but we don't want this. We definitely don't want the guys who seem like they don't want to be there, that are already kind of, they're out to lunch on it. They show up, they do their time. They jack up threes when we don't want them to. Let's get rid of those guys. But I think right now it's our knee-jerk reaction is because, again, we're on the high potentially of last night, that maybe we don't need De'Aaron right now. And let's move away from him and, again, invest our time and energy and joy and expectations into Tyrese and Davion pulling it together.
We posted a question. I actually just closed it. The people have spoken over on youtube.com/ESPN 1320. The question was, at this point, and it ties into what you were just saying, Olivia, at this point in the season, what do you prefer? And the 4 options were play young guys and take the result. Kings win. Play young guys and lose. Kings play well and lose. What do you prefer as a Kings fan? And 44% say play the young guys and whatever happens, happens. They took that over how many? Only 24% say at this point in the Kings season, I want the Kings to win.
I want the Kings to win. I want the Kings to try. I want whatever combination of people who need to be on the court to make it seem like they're trying, or if it's the reality they are really trying, that's what I want to see. And I kind of brought this up last week about at this point, potentially, I think the coaching staff is trying to invest good habits and lessons and strategies into these young players. And if they're able to succeed and get us some more wins, yay. If they don't, but they're still getting time and they're getting minutes and developing their game in a way that could be advantageous to us next year, let's do that. So that's where my heart is. Like, let's play the games in front of us. That's the best way we know how. Last night was the best way we know how. So I don't know why they can't do that all the time. I don't know why they only do that against teams they think should beat them. But I am celebrating every win. I celebrated every win after every quarter last night. Yes, we made it through the first. We made it through the second. And I feel like, moving forward in the next few weeks, that's what it's going to be like. For me, anyway, as a fan, I'm going to continue to celebrate every victory, consistency, playing smart, taking the better shot, not just the open shot. And I think that's why, in hearing that you all were at the game last night, I realized I didn't get the invitation. It only takes like an hour to get to Sacramento, but whatever.
Anytime, Maybach O, anytime.
You could have sat with Kenny next to Kyrie Irving.
Well, I wasn't sitting next to Kyrie Irving. She could sit next to Kyrie. I wasn't.
I was sitting with the rest of the media folks, but Kenny was down there next to Kyrie. So you get a call ahead of time. We'll make sure you're always taken care of.
Okay. If I sit down by the opponent's bench, I will just get drunk and throw up on the floor.
Oh,
that's precedent in Sacramento. That works. That works.
But yeah, I was going to say the energy that was in the building last night, even watching it on League Pass, like it was palpable. Like I could get that. And it was because of the energy they exuded. And I think a fan base deserves that at least. If they don't get the wins, if we don't make the moves, at least give us passion and energy and smart ball.
Yeah. It's funny. Like you said this, I want them to win. And then you I want them to try. And it's so crazy that I don't know how many fan bases have to make that distinction. No, we want our team to try.
Right.
Because we're pretty sure we've seen them not.
And I want to be able to look at you and know that you're trying. I'm not like, was that effort? Was that luck?
Right. Well, and that's the weird thing about last night. Is like they were down double digits. Like this game looked like it was going down that familiar route in the second quarter.
Yeah.
And, Brooklyn was terrible, but that hasn't stopped the Kings from, allowing a terrible team to beat them. They took, to kind of run with an analogy that's been used over and over again. They took a punch and responded. They took that punch in the second quarter and responded. And I'm sure you, Olivia, were like Kenny and myself, kind of thought, okay, Harden and Kyrie, they're having a rough night. It's all right. Let's see what happens in the last 4 minutes. And nothing did. That was Tyrese's time. Like that was King's time. And Buddy Hield made some plays. Like guys,
2-4, elite
indeed. The guys got the job done, which is okay. How'd y'all do that? Or what stopped you from doing it before?
Copy paste.
Yeah.
Game. Control K. I'm not an Apple person, so I don't know if that's effective for you Apple people, but that's what works on my computer.
I absolutely use the mouse every time. I'm
afraid to hit Control K. I'm like my whole system will shut down. I don't know what that does. All I know, I was wrong about CJ McCollum. CJ McCollum is balling since he came back.
He kind of changed. He changed Portland a little bit.
Yeah, he had a rough little stretch before his injury. Very short, rough little stretch, but man, he's been playing some good ball since he returned. Really, really good. I wonder how he feels. No, I'm serious. Like I wonder he's 30 years old, 30 years and 136 days. That's how old he is. Basketball Reference tells you down to the day.
I love that. I love when they do that.
I want to know, is the moon rising? Is it setting? Is he a Leo? I don't know. No, you don't have those details.
When's his birthday?
That's what I'm looking to see. I do September 19th. I don't know what that
is.
I don't know what it is either.
I don't know what that constitutes. I'm
not. I know about 3 signs. That's about it.
I'm a Leo, which makes me like really into myself. So I only know really what a Leo is.
Same. Same. That's why me and Olivia rock together, man. For
Oh, that's
sure.
right. Yes.
I'm an
I forgot.
emotional. I'm an emotional guy.
Well, we learned that. I legit think we learned that the first day of D'Lo and Casey. I got a little emotional when you just lambasted the San Francisco Giants for the way that they were playing. There are some other things that we want to get into with Olivia. We're going to talk about the Kings, a lot about the Kings. By the way, give and go with Maybach O. What do you? We'll hit that, by the way, in about 2 or 3 minutes. What do you think about? We were talking about this before you joined us. We talked with Matt Barnes about it earlier. Davion and Tyrese and how they have just kind of they've seemingly have centered and played really well together in this short period of time that they've had to.
Yeah, it's impressive. I feel like both of those guys were really likely wanting to step up and play a more significant role, but they were falling back behind players that have been with the Kings for a while, like a De'Aaron Fox, waiting for him to create. And, Tyrese, like we've been yelling and talking about Tyrese, shoot.
Yeah.
And I felt like he was resistant to do that because he didn't want to step up and he didn't want to step on someone's toes, or he was still trying to figure out his role. Davion's minutes were inconsistent just because of, COVID protocols and a young player coming off the bench. He's trying to figure out what kind of player he's going to be in this league.
Yeah.
But with having De'Aaron off the court, Davion and Tyrese it's kind of like their coaches have said, you can do this, guys. Go discover this together. Put it out there. And they're figuring it out. Now, Tyrese I don't think he's shooting any more than he used to. Maybe a couple of shots more here or there. But he, I've said this on previous shows that I believe you have to kind of recognize people for who they are, what their challenges are, what they're resistant to. And Tyrese is not going to become a guy, at least at this point in the next few years. I don't imagine someone who's just going to be shooting a ton as much as we want him to. So let's put him in a position to be a facilitator. He feels best and does really well when he's, calling plays or getting into the offense early, making sure that ball is touched by 2 or 3 different people in and out of the key, finding assists, finding the man. And that's what we need. We need someone to lead, at least in that way, on the court. He's a quiet guy, but he's joyful. And I think that kind of energy is contagious. And Davion, he's clearly a person clearly in my mind anyway, who's been wanting to perform. He's been wanting to step up and live up to expectations. He wanted to be someone to spark a defensive energy in the team. And again, I think because of the chaos of the season, players getting hurt, all of these things, it's been kind of a stop, go with him. And he's got an opportunity to have some games in a row where he gets to start and get the feel of the game early on. And also, again, kind of inspire the defense.
Yeah.
When he's playing hard, when he's shutting down people, Kyrie, it's inspiring to the rest of the team. Like, this is one of the best players in the NBA. Davion is a rookie out here, and he's putting it out. He's pouring it out on the floor.
Yeah.
I'm drunk, I promise. But
Not yet.
It's water in my cup. Anyone would be like, he's giving it his all, but like he's leaving it out there. And I think this team especially is a team that is very susceptible to energy shifts.
Yeah.
And their energy has been, at least last night, was contagious. So, yeah.
And you're right.
The Kings
Tyrese is
Panthers, like the sign, not the disease. Like they're
Tyrese's shot attempts are marginally up, barely measurable up. We'll come back. There's a lot more to talk about with Olivia Christian, including Give and Go with Maybach O. That's on the way. We're going to dive into a few other things as well, and we'll do that next here. D'Lo and KC continue on Sacramento's #1 sports station, ESPN 1320. Yeah. Yep.
Olivia, are you looking forward to the Winter Olympics at all?
Meh. I like the Winter Olympics, but I'm not. I don't know. I feel like
I don't like the Winter Olympics.
I don't either.
I'm trying to think. What are the couple of events that I do pay attention to?
Got to turn into the luge.
The luge.
Lock in for the
I tried to watch
bobsled.
curling one time, and no. There's something else I could watch.
I still don't get curling is when they're sweeping, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just about smoothing out the ice so it moves faster or slower at certain times.
Yeah, there's like a bullseye or something that you're trying to get the thing into. Like, I kind of get it, I guess, but no.
Yeah.
There's other things I could watch. Sorry. Although on Xfinity, they have a really cool Olympic channel where it's just nothing but Olympics. So if they're in current Olympics, they'll show like stuff all day long from the current Olympics. But when the Olympics are over, they show like old Olympics on the channel or trials or whatever the case may be. Very cool. Maybe late night. I'll check it.
I don't have regular cable anymore, but so I won't be able to see that kind of stuff. But I do like a little bit of ice skating. Does the Jamaican team have a bobsled team again?
Oh, Cool Runnings. Peyton's referencing Cool Runnings right there.
I think they're like good this year.
I've seen curling. Like that's coming up here a lot. That it's a fascinating thing to watch.
Well, you got to watch curling. Is not anything I think I hear today.
It's interesting. It's like, what are y'all doing?
I watched curling for about 10
right?
years. Yeah, to smooth out the ice and get all. I mean, the strategy behind just because I don't like it doesn't mean I don't acknowledge like what they're doing is a top flight level. Like I understand the difficulty of what they're doing. I just don't want to watch it.
I like speed skating and I like snowboarding. Those are things I'll probably check in on.
Okay. Snowboarding is cool.
Skating and the one arm and they're like go around the corner and they're going 50 miles an hour. Like that seems insane. But those are probably that's a good amount of activity though. I just named off bobsledding, ice skating, speed skating, snowboarding.
Yeah.
In theory, I'll check it out.
Olivia,
I'll watch those highlights. I'll watch the highlights of those things and maybe catch a couple of ice skating. Debbie Thomas was very famous when I was a little girl, so she made me want to be an ice skater. To this day, I've never been ice skating.
Can you skate? Like, are you like a roll bounce? You can go backwards and do all this other stuff?
Yeah.
Nice.
Bounce.
Nice.
Rock.
I'll ask Olivia the question. If you had, if JT got a scholarship to any school in the Pac-12, where would you want him to go?
Playing basketball?
Whatever. Yeah, basketball. Whatever he wants to do, but it's a full ride, free school scholarship.
No. Here's my challenge. There are like schools that I think their education is amazing. I'd love him to go to Berkeley, but I think he'd have a great time at UCLA.
I ain't worried about Jackson's great time.
Well, not like great time partying, but also just like being further away from family.
He's going to Stanford.
Okay.
See, I had the same reaction, Olivia. Like, I get it. I understand.
Going to Stanford.
I said USC. Somebody came in here and said,
I don't want to go to USC. I don't want that.
Somebody came in here and said, because we were trying to figure out like what's the best degree. We were like, Stanford's number one. I thought USC is probably number two.
Berkeley.
And then Cal. Somebody came in here and said that whatever recent studies or whatever, that UCLA is number two.
I think you're both wrong. I think it's Stanford, Berkeley. And then you can all go to my home.
No, that USC degree is pretty heavy. That's a heavy degree.
All degrees aren't created equal. You know, some schools have USC. If he wants to be a movie maker, go to USC. Yes, that would be dope.
So they have a law program too. USC law. Isn't it like a law, pretty prestigious law program?
Yes, it'd be quite cute next to your Stanford law degree.
Has he said he wants to go to Stanford?
We're coming back. Live on the Odyssey app, live on Twitch, live on YouTube. Is Dealing with KC, brought to you by McQueen and the Violet Fog, the smoothest gin in the world, handcrafted in Brazil. Continues. McQueen and the Violet Fog are giving away a $500 gift card to create your ultimate big game watch party. For your chance to win, visit the contest page on ESPN1320.net and learn more. Again, ESPN1320.net for your chance to win a $500 gift card from the crew over at McQueen and the Violet Fog Gin. The conversation about Pac-12 schools continued now that Olivia joined us, and the conversation only got a little bit hotter as Olivia, you almost without thinking said, "Oh, I'm sending I'm sending my guy. I'm sending my nephew to Cal. He's going to Cal, or my or whoever. They're going to Berkeley. That's where they're going. And I'm like, no, Jackson's going to Stanford. That's where he's going.
Well, I'm
in the USC.
He's not going to USC. That is not happening. I will not allow it.
I'll co-sign that. He's not going to USC. He's not going to USC.
Well, I'm curious why you think Stanford is in the running. Like, where's that coming from?
In the running?
Got the best degree.
I mean, it's an amazing. I mean, of course.
It's Stanford.
No, I'm kidding. I like Stanford. I'm just kidding. He could go to my alma mater, Santa Clara. Hello, Steve Nash, the current governor of California, Santa Clara graduate.
I don't know that you want to. I don't know that you want to. Timing is everything. I don't know that you want to hang your hat on that one right now. Your boy's taking some. He's taking some L's.
It's like Insecure when out of nowhere in the last season they said they all went to Stanford. Who knew?
It seems like it would have been important to know that through the last 6-7 years of the show.
Yeah, remember I went to this party. I'm like, oh, you guys didn't meet in LA you all went to school. Oh, all right, okay, whatever you say. Lovely friendship.
Indeed, yes, indeed. I want to. We'll get back to the Kings. We got to give and go with Maybach O coming up here in just a heartbeat. Obviously, other things going on in the sports world. Were you even the slightest bit surprised when you saw Brian Flores file that lawsuit?
No. No. I was surprised when he got fired.
Yes, we all were.
That was wild. Well, the substance of the arguments he makes in the filing just seem obvious. And it kind of confirming, I think, for a lot of fans of football, especially Black fans of football, people who pay attention to coaches and who get coaching gigs after having failure after failure, season after season. They keep getting hired somehow. I'm surprised that he's been doing a lot of television actually this week. He's been talking about it a lot.
Yeah, me
too.
Be
a little bit quieter for the first couple days, first week or so. But maybe he was encouraged to do that because the NFL put out that statement so quickly saying, no, there's no merit to the allegation. You haven't even, it just came out. How have you had time to digest it and do an investigation and conclude that it's without merit? It's just a reflex, obviously, that they put that out there. And with that statement about diversity is at the forefront of everything we do, I'm paraphrasing here, is a joke.
Oh, that was awful. It
was just ridiculous and insulting. Yeah. And I'm walking around I've been the last few days just kind of infuriated by a lot of the topics that are happening, that are going on in the world today. And I really wanted Brian at Chicago because, I'm a Bears fan. I was really hoping we'd get it. They got a Black GM over there. It didn't work out for whatever reason. But I'm kind of thinking, I wonder if Belichick, it was an accident that he sent that text or if it was on purpose.
Like you think he was trying to blow the lid off something? Because that's the only reason you do it on purpose, right?
Yeah, I don't think I said that the right way. Was it an accidental text? Like, oh, I actually meant to, it was the other Brian, or this is a secret way of letting you know that you aren't getting it.
Oh, no, I think he did it on accident. Yeah, I he was texting him late. Maybe he was sipping a little bit. Maybe he had some McQueen in the Violet Fog, and Bill was getting a little loose with the text message and text the wrong guy.
Brian had a great run in New England, so maybe Bill was trying to throw him something. Hey, secret.
Yeah, that's
thinking. I'm not a huge Belichick fan, so maybe he's a good guy and really wanted to. That's likely not what happened. The reality of the accidental text, I'm sure, is.
Well, well, the crazy thing, I know I'm probably wrong here. I'm still not convinced Bill thought Brian Flores was getting the job, and he misheard that information.
Oh, so you think so? You think he actually thought it was Brian Flores?
Yeah.
But here, I think you're both forgetting the important part. Brian Flores hadn't interviewed yet.
Right, so
he hadn't even interviewed for the job yet.
That's what I'm saying when he said, Brian, Bill Belichick knows all things, so maybe he was already on top of that. But when he heard that, he was like, "Hey, congratulations! I hear you're getting it." Da, 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 da. And then Brian Flores was like, "I go to the interview on Tuesday."
Mm-hmm.
Then Bill goes back on, well, let me see. What did I hear? I thought I heard Brian Flores at the job. Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. When he told him he was going to interview, that triggered Bill Belichick to be like, to check that again. I could be wrong with that, though. I don't know.
Well,
It could be as simple as he thought it was he picked the wrong Brian.
Well, I know that Brian hadn't been interviewed yet. So it's not that I'm missing that point. My point is maybe Belichick, this is all crazy theory but maybe Belichick knew that and texted him this as a heads up and had to pretend like it was an accident because he didn't want to come out and say, hey, they're hiring somebody else you and you haven't been interviewed.
So you really got Bill coming in here and saving the day. I got distracted here for a minute because as we're speaking, the New York Giants released a statement in regard to all of this, and it is far too long for me to read here. There is one particular thing that stands out into this conversation that we're having after discussing a variety of things. The allegations for the Giants' decision has been made prior to the Friday evening, January 28th, is false, and to base the allegation on a text exchange with Bill Belichick in which he ultimately states he thinks Brian DeBall would get the job is irresponsible. Goes on and on and on. In addition, Mr. Belichick does not speak for and has no affiliation with the Giants. Mr. Belichick's text exchange provides no insights into what actually transpired during our head coaching search. And the statement goes on and on and on and on, including laying out Brian Flores' interview itinerary, which I don't know why. There's no dispute that Brian Flores interviewed for the job, but this is where it's such dangerous ground for Brian Flores. It's Brian Flores against 30 of the richest men in the world.
I'll say the machine
and Mark Davis. And this will be, I'm not going to pretend to fully understand this reference, but I think I know it enough to grasp it. This is Thanos now. And the NFL's got all the rings and they're going to destroy Brian Flores. And you're seeing that one statement at a time, first from the NFL, now from, the New York Giants. And I'm sure there'll be more to follow. This is Flores knows there's precedent. Colin Kaepernick, like he ain't seeing the National Football League again. Like he's done.
Yeah. And he said as much. He said, like, I'm likely not going to get hired, but it's bigger than me. But throughout history, especially for African-Americans in sports, they've always had to put themselves out there, knowing that they may not get the next job. They may be out of the league forever. And we look at somebody like Muhammad Ali, who was hated during his time. And, towards the end of his life,
right.
Muhammad Ali was amazing. It's just like with Martin Luther King. He was the most hated man in America. Now it's, oh my gosh. We have these short memories, but they put themselves on the line for the greater good and hopefully making some progress and calling out what they have experienced. And we already seen folks like Hugh Jackson, and they're coming out with their stories about what they experienced. And a lot of times it takes that one person to put themselves out there in order for other things, for the pins to fall. So that's what I'm hoping. I think I overheard, I get to dip in and out of the show throughout the week, but I think, Damien, you mentioned, as a fan of football, should you be watching the sport when you know what some of these players are up against, what the NFL has routinely been doing, the ownership, at least. I mean, there's the ownership, there's the NFL and Roger Goodell. And a couple of years ago, I interviewed a writer for ESPN, and she did the story on women's gymnastics. And she was a gymnast herself. She started talking to athletes who were starving themselves, crying themselves to sleep at night because they were so hungry to live up to these expectations. And as I asked her, as a fan and a writer, like, how do you then go watch the sport? Because they haven't ended a lot of these things that these athletes are facing, and they're still having to meet these incredible expectations about their size and their weight management, their mental health. But are we doing a disservice to them because they're trying to make a living and this is what they were called to do? Are we doing a disservice to them as fans to continue to participate in it? As a viewer, are we participating? Are we perpetuating these things? We're not boycotting all of the brands that are supporting it. I mean, I boycott State Farm, but that's for different reasons. But there are brands out there that, they put up the Black Lives Matter during Black History Month or during 2020. And now, the things haven't changed. And I question whether or not I'm perpetuating it by being a fan of sports. And I don't know where to land. I don't know what to do. And I think Flores is like, I don't know what to do other than to tell the truth and put it out there. And hopefully it will change and other folks can step up and share their story. And we finally get there.
No.
We're nowhere close. We're not close at all to what we want. Yeah.
No, we're not. And it's like, you brought up Martin Luther King, and that day exposes every phony that lives. Like when you see the people who tweet the quotes and the memes and all of that stuff, and like every fallback for someone who has said something stupid is to use an MLK quote. And it's so insulting to our intelligence. It's so insulting to everybody's intelligence. Like people see through that stuff. But the thing that I do have a really difficult time, especially with stories like this. Jerry Jones drove me out of between the fallout of the Colin Kaepernick situation and Jerry Jones. Like that's what drove me away from the NFL. But what we do is very much predicated on me paying attention to what's going on in that league, which is why what you heard is when I told Deuce and Mo is, when Kenny leaves me behind and it's determined that I'm the Marty Jannetty of the group, and he goes on to be Mr. WrestleMania and is working in New York, I'm gone. Y'all ain't gonna see me. It's just gonna be like social media is going because I don't want to follow this stuff. I did the podcast thing. I did all of that stuff to get here, right here with Kenny, right here with you. That's what I did it all for, is to get here. When this is done, I'm done. Because I can't watch that league anymore. Like I can't. Like it's gross. And I feel like such a hypocrite. And Kenny and I are talking about what we're going to do with B Heard and Deuce and Mo and all of this stuff we do to try to uplift our youth and all of these different things. And they're like, yo, what kind of hypocrite am I? Where every day I got to spend hours upon hours upon hours talking about this league that so blatantly doesn't want black minds a part of it. You want black bodies a part of it, but you don't want black minds a part of it.
Yeah. Nah, it's tough. And you see situations like Brian Flores or Colin Kaepernick, and you get so disgusted with the business of it all, and you get conflicted with the business of it all. And it sucks because I don't like the business. I don't tune in to watch any of these leagues for the business of the league. I tune in to watch it because I love the competition. I love to see these guys competing. I love to see the best players in the world compete on the highest level. And I guess kind of separate the two because I'm still watching, but like you try to focus on separating the two. I know the guys who run the league have their way of going about things that I 100% don't agree with. But man, I like watching Fred Warner play, or Debo, or Jimmy Garoppolo, or I like watching them play. I love the competition. I love the camaraderie of watching a team come together. Like those are the things that have me watching Big West basketball on ESPN Plus every day, because I'd watch that. You know what I mean? And that's the frustration of it all, because at that point in time, you have to deal with business. Hell, NCAA, you're dealing with, crooked stuff in the business. And I'm watching all these college basketball games and college football and things of that nature. So unfortunately, when money becomes involved, it gets muddied. The waters definitely get muddied.
Yeah.
But at least we got Snoop and Dr. Dre.
Yes.
At least we got that.
Everything is solved.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about that. The deal, what was it, like a couple years ago? Was it 2020 that Jay-Z went into? He made it. We're past kneeling now. We're going to move forward with doing these things to really showcase what the league is doing on behalf of marginalized communities. And thus far, all I've seen is halftime shows. I don't know what else. And I wouldn't put it on Jay-Z as an individual to have to change that league, because ownership is ownership. But
no, but Jay-Z got to be better than using lines like "we're past kneeling."
Right.
Yeah, what I'm going to say. But when you put yourself out there to say, "Hey, we're past that. We're going to do something else," and you've done nothing, you put up some great, lineups together. Yeah, but 2 years later, here we are again with this bombshell, and it's depressing to me. We've got the Super Bowl coming up. It's hard for me to hear these stories, to think of these men, think of their families, think of what they go through and had gone through as they work their way to a position where they should be considered and hired and paid equally in the NFL, and that doesn't happen. And then go and watch something and say, and participate in it and watch it and be a consumer of it, because it is perpetuating it. But it's hard. I'm like you, Kenny. I want to see some hits. I want to see great catches. I want to enjoy it. But I have to say, as African Americans, we never really get an opportunity to just enjoy stuff. We always have this other thing that we're walking around with.
Man, we couldn't even wait in line for a chicken sandwich without someone saying, "Why don't you wait in line to vote like that?" Couldn't be nothing.
A Black woman appointed to the Supreme Court with amazing credentials without, well, does she know the difference between a J. Crew catalog and the Constitution? It's just
like, fam, you know the difference between your KK robe and that judge's gown you got to put on, or do they look too similar? Like, because we could play this game all day with people, but it's I keep telling this, y'all. Some of y'all don't like it. Colin Kaepernick's gonna be talked about the way Muhammad Ali is talked about.
Oh, for sure.
Because y'all forget the part that Olivia posted out. Y'all forget the part that Olivia referenced a second ago. People hated Muhammad Ali, hated his guts. All of this stuff is revisionist history. Until oh damn, that boxer was right. Shoot. Okay, let's reshape history a little bit. It's gonna happen with Cap. Ain't gonna happen tomorrow, but that's ultimately what's gonna happen.
They hated Hank Aaron. They wanted to kill Hank Aaron. Right. They hated, they still sometimes call him Cassius Clay, just because I don't want to, that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar changed his name. Who was like, it doesn't. Decades later, they're heroes because of what they were just trying to do on the court. They were trying to be excellent players, also stand up for the community, live in the reality of what all African Americans were facing at the time, while also trying to play the sport. But they were hated and demonized, called un-American for days, had things thrown at them on the court. And then decades later, another generation comes in, oh, wow, they were actually really cool. And they were right. Now that we think about it, they were right. That's just infuriating.
The more we talk about this Brian Flores thing, man, the more I just hate it, because nothing's, and I think everybody listening knows this, or at least most people listening knows. I know the three of us know this. Nothing's going to happen. Brian Flores probably isn't winning this lawsuit unless he has some incredible information, and there aren't going to be any ramifications against the NFL. Like, Stephen Ross gave him $100,000 fine. So what? Daniel Snyder is still very much the owner of the Washington Commanders. You can't get him out. There was new allegations today.
Right.
He got more allegations popping up than Bill Cosby. You can't get him out. You ain't getting nobody out. And the saddest reality is, you get Dan Snyder out. Okay. You get Stephen Ross out. Okay. There's another Dan Snyder and another Stephen Ross waiting to be approved by the other 30 owners.
And real quick, Olivia, so that's something that I heard about today, and you're 100% correct. Does it ever phase out? There's a lot of old money and older people in the NFL. Does it ever phase out, or do they hand it down to their family who thinks the same way, or does their family, because their family is growing up in a different time? Do you think it ever fades out? Because you can make the argument it's not perfect, but it's phased out in the NBA, right? Like, there's new money in there. They do things a little differently. Does it phase out ever in the NFL?
Only if the players make it. The NBA works the way it does because the players demand it. NFL players don't have the same luxuries. They don't have the protections, the guaranteed money, certain things like that the NBA does.
And they don't have the same power.
So therefore, they don't have the same power, and they don't demand it. And I think it's just a completely different kind of financial culture and understanding,
That's
I
right.
think, in the NFL than there is in the NBA. But in life in general, I'm a pretty optimistic person. I'm optimistic about the things I can control.
Right.
I'm blessed with a lot of opportunities, gifts, and talents that I feel obligated to pour into others as been poured into me. But when I back out and look at the world that we're in or the country that we're in, I'm very pessimistic.
Right.
Civil rights laws passed in 65 and 68. My parents were in high school when those laws passed. We only had them around for about 40 years, and they're reversing all of that stuff right now.
Right.
Even though people are growing up a different generation, the laws and things that are put in place are still going to perpetuate. We're going to go back in time and have to fight these same battles. And I'll say this other thing, Kenny. I don't mean to keep saying, I interviewed this person, but I interviewed
Big baller status.
Dave Stewart, 3-time World Series champion, 1989 MVP of the World Series, A's Giants. I asked him, because I'm a baseball fan. Baseball is the sport that I love the most. I grew up in a baseball family. Mm-hmm. My brother played baseball, and he was typically the only Black kid out there. We were the only Black family in the crowd, which was, something I grew up with, so I'm used to that. But I didn't understand why, and I asked him this, why aren't there more Black players in the MLB? Now, there's a lot of Black Latinos, but not a lot of African Americans that are playing baseball. Is it something that baseball is doing? And obviously there aren't owners, there aren't GMs that are Black. And he was like, he thought the MLB was doing a good job at trying to do outreach to African American kids. But the challenge around baseball is, and it's similar to the NFL, ownership is passed down to my son or my daughter. And they've grown up in these bubbles of wealth and around the same type of people. And as Brian Flores says, and you go into these conversations, they're looking for people who they just kind of gel with, people who are like them. And African American and other marginalized people experience this when they're looking for jobs in every industry. That's the hurdle. Like, you might have the credentials, but do I really feel you like that? Do you get me like that? No. I'm going to hire this guy with a resume that's half as good as yours, but he reminds me of myself. And that's what the challenge around the MLB and NFL is. The NBA is, again, they're doing right by their players, and I feel like they feel emboldened. And when somebody makes a stand, I feel like they come together as a league. And the NFL is like, should I kneel? I'm not ready to put myself out there. Like, 1 or 2 players will do it here. And that's the challenge around it. But I don't think we're ever going to necessarily grow out of that habit, because we're reverting to things that we just achieved 40 years ago. This crazy cycle we're going in. That's my pessimistic view. Sorry about that.
No, I was going to say, and Damien, I want to also hear what you got to say, and Olivia. Does the money change, though? Because I agree, it's not really even about the players. Like, the players and the relationship with the owners, that's kind of a side subject. Does the money ever change? Like, the money is old right now in the NFL. The money's old compared to the NBA. It's a little younger. It's a different. The money that's in the NBA came up in a little different society than the money that's in, when I talk about the owners, than the ownership in the NFL. Does that ever change? Or, not to get too conspiracy theory on you, is there an unwritten rule or something where, like, when it's time to sell, it goes to this list of people, it goes to this type of person, they got to check this boxes?
Well, I don't think the conspiracy is that deep, but you have to get approved. You know what I mean? Like, it was when Olivia brought up the thing about Jay-Z and Roger Goodell coming to the Rock Nation studio. And all of the tweets come, y'all, Jay-Z playing, y'all out there playing checkers, Jay-Z playing chess, he about to buy a team. Y'all think the NFL is gonna let Sean Carter own a team? No, they ain't gonna let a group led by Sean Carter own a team. They approve who gets to purchase a team,
right?
And money is a small part of it.
But do they move on? The gatekeepers right now, Jerry Jones, he's not going to be around forever. But
he's going to Steven.
Saying that Steven Jones goes the same way as Jerry. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I
so
do.
It's never going to change. As long as Steven does the same things as Jerry, then it's never going to change. But if Steven was, and I don't know this guy, I'm just going by a couple things. If Steven was like Jed York, maybe things could change. Right? The perception.
Sure. But you would also need, like, because it's not just Jerry, and not that, time gets us all. Like, it's Jerry, but it's Kroenke too.
Right. But
Like,
that's my point. Like Ross, Jones, the guy that was in Houston, they're gonna pass on.
That's a lot.
You know,
that's a lot.
But aren't they all around the same?
That's a lot of employee turnover that you need there.
And that's why I say over time. Like, will we ever see it over time? But if Gary subscribes to the same thing that Steven does, we ain't never gonna see a change.
If we have kids that we send to Stanford and Cal, maybe they'll see it. I don't think we will.
The players they're the only ones who can change it. They're the only ones. And as I started this off by saying I'm pessimistic when I pull out and see the larger view, I don't have hope in mankind when it comes to money making the moral decision. Yeah. It takes a long time. Slavery was 400 plus years. We had Reconstruction. We had Jim Crow. And when we think about the long history of this country, it all comes back to finances. People aren't letting go of that money just for like, let's open the opportunities up for it. It's only when laws change or the people who are asked to produce it rise up and make that change. I feel like that's the only way we're going to see something different. And there are owners who are willing to lose rather than hire a Black man who's got a great resume.
That's facts.
Well, the rising up scares people.
Yeah.
That's why number 7 is gone.
There's a book on my shelf. You probably can't see it, but it's called The Sum of Us, written by Heather McGhee, who's just a genius. But it's basically about how there are people in this country, the majority of them being white Americans, through history, who would rather give up things that would enrich their lives than allow somebody else to also participate. It's like when they desegregated pools. Some communities that we'd rather not even have a pool than let Black folks swim in the pool. And that's what the NFL is doing. We'd rather not hire the best guy or the best person, whoever that is, if they're a person of color, if they're a Black man. If that means now this guy's in a position of power and we have to open up the opportunities, we'll fake it. We'll have these little sham interviews, but we're not going to open up ownership if we can keep these rules the way they are. I mean, we're willing to lose instead of hire this person. Wow. And I read an article in Deadspin earlier today about Jim Caldwell, and he's Exhibit A in Brian Flores's his argument, his lawsuit, and they just went down the history of what Jim Caldwell did and how he worked magic with Peyton, with Matt Stafford, and turned their interceptions around, and the way and the players talk about it. He was amazing. He turned my career around. I see the game differently, but he can't get a job. In 4 years. They'd rather lose. That is insane.
Our guy Jesse gives us a note and says why it won't ever change in the NFL. If Ross is forced to sell, the next person in line is a guy that works for him in his real estate firm. Like, they're just going to cycle it to a like-minded person. Bruce Beal is the guy's name.
It's the NFL is Succession. I know everybody may not watch that show or get it. The NFL is Succession. Succession is essentially Fox News. It just gets handed down. The structure of it is always going to remain the same. Shout out to the homie Frank Red. He's probably not listening, but I know a lot of you saw his post on Twitter yesterday. Frank Red, former host of In the Dungeon. Frank, shout out, man. We told you anytime you want a platform, homie, you got one.
Real talk.
Here with D'Lo and KC.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Don't have a cute transition. We haven't done Give and Go with Maybach O. I need like theme music or something.
We have theme music.
I can't even take a commercial break. Oh, okay. You want to play that? We found new theme music earlier. I'm know.
Worried.
It's not good. It's not good.
Okay. What we got here? What are we going with?
Oh, did you want me to play it? I thought you were playing.
I got it. Let's go with.
What's night? Okay, let's see what it sounds like.
Daydreaming here.
Daydreaming. Okay. Yo. Oh, I thought I was about to start rapping. My bad. That's me. That's me. That's me. No, I ain't gonna do that. It's Give and Go. Can you freestyle?
I can do that.
Lady of Olivia. Okay, easy, Tiger. The late 90s was a different era. Like, I don't know that fly anymore.
Well, that's right. Sorry.
right, let's hit give and go with Maybach O. We need to get some theme music. We need to get some theme music for this segment, but it centers around the things. It centers around the Kings, and your gives and your goes. What do we got here, O?
Well, my first give is what we talked about earlier. Davion. Give me more Davion. I like the energy that he brings to the team. I like that he's getting these minutes. He's figuring out his game. And he looks like he's trying. Like, I feel like he's displaying physically. You can see him thinking it through, really being kind of thoughtful about his approach with each player that he's playing with. And yesterday he got that one. I'm sure it feels really good to him. So give me more Davion. What can go for me is talk about De'Aaron. Even though we already talked about De'Aaron, I don't want to hear about De'Aaron again until he's back on the court. I don't know what's going on with the ankle. I believe people are hurt because sometimes you just don't know. But I think it was that interview. I think he did the interview with James. I was watching it on Twitter. It may not have been James, so I apologize. But he was kind of describing it. It's really hard to like stop and change direction. I'm like, all right, well, I'm not a professional athlete. These are guys with, people relying on them to make a living. He wants to make his career long and successful. So if he needs to rest. But I don't want to talk about it. Go on with that.
Okay.
I feel
you heard it here. Olivia says no more talk about De'Aaron Fox, unless, of course, he doesn't play tonight and the Kings win. Then we might have to bring it back up, but Olivia says no more. So no more.
I'll be more specific about the ankle. Until you're back and ready to play, then we can start talking about the game and trades and all that stuff. But like, is he really hurt? I don't know.
Making our job real difficult here, O.
Yeah, we got 4
Making our
hours.
job really difficult here. I'm praying for a De'Aaron Fox return tonight, so I don't get in trouble.
Well, I like for tonight. I want them to have that same energy. Give me that same energy. The Warriors are another team that they're not expected to beat, so therefore they should cut and paste what they did last night and come with 48 minutes of energy. When you get hit in the mouth, and you will get hit in the mouth, probably in the third quarter, because the Warriors love the third quarter. You have to be take a quick timeout. Don't let it run off to a 20-point deficit. Somebody on the court, find some leadership, call it out, redirect. But just come with that same energy. I think they really do feed off of grabbing the ball out of the net or taking it off the board and running it up the court as quickly as possible before the defense has a ton of time to sit and relax and get set. If they can start throwing it up, if they need to throw it up a couple passes to get up the court, whatever it is, get going into the offense earlier and have that same energy.
I like that. They got punched yesterday, and I thought they responded. They got punched in the second quarter, a couple of Kyrie Irving threes, and they kept pushing through that. Thankfully, the Nets didn't do anything to have the referee stop the fight, so that worked in their favor. But they can't control that. They can only control their end, and I thought they did a hell of a job.
Exactly. I think they did too. I was really worried. I was like, oh God, here we go. They made it through. But what could go is that ISO ball. I saw too many isolation plays last night. They got lucky. They got lucky because they got the Nets when they got the Nets. The Nets were tired. The Nets started off pretty good. That first quarter was competitive, but they didn't have the legs. They didn't have the energy. And the Kings stepped up. Again, they got hit in the mouth, but they stepped up and they continued to play their game through those 4 quarters. But they had some success with that ISO ball, but it's not something that I want them to fall back on because they're generally not good at it. They are not good at dribbling for 15 seconds individually and in and out and passing it around the key. No, get hands, get some touches in and out of the key to the big man, whatever you can do, whoever's in there, Rashawn, Damian, but get rid of that ISO mentality if you can, as quickly as possible tonight.
Hey, can I throw a give in here? Can be give and go with D'Lo? Rashawn, give me Rashawn. I want my Rashawn back. Like, I know that's easier said than done for a dude who's literally had his eye lacerated in a lengthy bout on the health and safety protocol list. But man, I miss Rashawn.
Come on, Rashawn. Let's get it going, big dog.
Yeah, I miss him too. I think he's skilled, obviously, but I think he comes with a lot of energy. I don't think he ever kind of walks around dumbfounded what we're going to do. He's ready to go. Like, he gets under the basket, and he gets in position, and he hits people in the mouth every now and then, and I like that.
Yeah, he does, man, and that's why he's one of our. Well, he's obviously one of our favorites, mine and yours, Olivia.
Yeah, no, all 3 of us. Calm down.
Okay. I never know what temperature you are with Rashawn Holmes. Olivia, tremendous stuff is always wonderful to have you spending your Thursdays here with